I smoothed my dress for the 100th time, taking a deep breath before knocking on Jacob's door. My fiancé and I had been living separately while we planned our wedding, but today was the day we'd finally start looking at houses together. As I raised my hand to knock, the door swung open. "Oh," I stumbled back, startled to see not Jacob, but an older woman with piercing blue eyes and a severe expression. "I'm sorry, I must have the wrong—" "You must be Beth," the woman said, her voice clipped. "I'm Elaine, Jacob's mother." I blinked in confusion. "I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. Jacob's mother passed away when he was young." Elaine's lips thinned into a tight smile. "His adoptive mother, yes. I'm his biological mother." My mind reeled. In the 2 years we'd been together, Jacob had never mentioned a biological mother. Before I could formulate a response, Jacob appeared behind Elaine, his face pale. "Beth, I can explain," he started, but Elaine cut him off. "There's nothing to explain, Jacob. I'm here now, and it's time we were a family again." I looked between them, my stomach churning. "Jacob, what's going on?" He stepped around Elaine, reaching for my hand. "I'm so sorry, Beth. I only found out recently myself. Elaine contacted me a few weeks ago, and I've been trying to figure out how to tell you." Elaine's eyes narrowed as she watched Jacob take my hand. "Well, now everyone knows. Shall we go inside? I've made lunch." I hesitated, but Jacob squeezed my hand reassuringly. "It's okay," he murmured. "We'll talk about this." As we entered the apartment, I couldn't help but notice how Elaine had made herself at home. Her coat was draped over the back of Jacob's favorite chair, and the air was thick with the scent of unfamiliar cooking. "Sit, sit," Elaine urged, ushering us to the table. "I've made Jacob's favorite, pot roast with carrots and potatoes." I frowned. "But Jacob's a vegetarian." Elaine waved her hand dismissively. "Nonsense, my boy loves a good pot roast." Jacob cleared his throat. "Actually, Mom, Elaine, I haven't eaten meat in years." A flicker of annoyance crossed Elaine's face before she covered it with a smile. "Well, more for us then. Beth, you'll have some, won't you?" "I'm not really hungry," I said, my appetite gone. "Jacob, can we talk for a moment, privately?" Before he could answer, Elaine interjected. "Now, Beth, there's no need for secrets. We're all family here." I bristled at her presumption. "With all due respect, Elaine, I've only just met you, and Jacob and I need to discuss this situation." Elaine's eyes flashed. "Situation? I'm his mother. I have every right to be here." Jacob stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "Elaine, please, Beth's right. We need a moment." As Jacob led me to the bedroom, I could feel Elaine's eyes boring into my back. Once the door was closed, I turned to Jacob. "What the hell is going on?" He ran a hand through his hair, looking more stressed than I'd ever seen him. "I'm so sorry, Beth. I should have told you sooner. Elaine contacted me out of the blue a few weeks ago. She claims she gave me up for adoption when I was a baby, but now she wants to reconnect. And you believe her?" Jacob shrugged helplessly. "I don't know what to believe. She has documents, photos. I was going to tell you, I swear. I just wanted to be sure before I brought it up." I took a deep breath, trying to process everything. "Okay, so what now?" Before Jacob could answer, there was a sharp knock at the door. "Jacob? Is everything all right in there?" I groaned quietly. "She's not going to make this easy, is she?" Jacob squeezed my hand. "We'll figure this out together, okay? I love you." As we opened the door to face Elaine, I couldn't shake the feeling that our lives had just become infinitely more complicated. Little did I know just how right I was. I never imagined my wedding planning would involve fending off an overzealous future mother-in-law, but here I was, staring at Elaine across the bridal boutique. She'd somehow wormed her way into our dress shopping appointment, and now she was eyeing the gowns with a critical gaze that made my skin crawl. "Oh, Beth, darling," Elaine cooed, holding up a frilly monstrosity. "This would look divine on you. So traditional, so proper." I forced a smile. "Thanks, Elaine, but I was thinking of something more modern." Her lips tightened. "Modern? But Jacob loves classic styles. Don't you want to please your husband?" Before I could retort, my best friend and maid of honor, Sarah, intervened. "I think Beth knows what Jacob likes better than anyone. Right, Beth?" I nodded gratefully, but Elaine wasn't finished. She sidled up to me, her voice low. "You know, dear, I've known Jacob his whole life. Even if we were separated for a while, I know what's best for him." I bit my tongue, reminding myself that she was Jacob's mother, allegedly. We still hadn't confirmed her story, but Jacob seemed convinced. I tried to focus on the dresses, but Elaine's constant commentary made it impossible. After an hour of thinly veiled insults and helpful suggestions, I was at my wit's end. "I think that's enough for today," I announced, my voice strained. "Thanks for coming, Elaine, but Sarah and I can handle the rest." Elaine's eyes flashed. "But we've only just started, and I haven't even shown you the guest list changes I've made." I froze. "Guest list changes?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, just a few additions. Some old friends of mine who'd love to see Jacob, and I took the liberty of removing a few of your college friends. We need to keep things classy, after all." That was the last straw. "Elaine," I said, my voice tight, "this is our wedding. Jacob's and mine, not yours. You don't get to make changes to our guest list or anything else." Her face darkened. "I'm his mother. I have every right." "You've known him for 3 weeks," I exploded. "I've been with Jacob for 2 years. I know him, I love him, and I'm the one marrying him, not you." The boutique fell silent. Elaine's face contorted with rage, but before she could speak, my phone rang. It was Jacob. I answered, grateful for the interruption. "Beth?" Jacob's voice was strained. "Where are you? Is my mother with you?" "We're at the bridal shop. Why? What's wrong?" He sighed heavily. "I just got home. The apartment's a mess. Looks like someone's been going through our things. And there's a note. From Elaine." My blood ran cold. I looked at Elaine, who was watching me with an unsettling smile. "What does it say?" I asked, though I dreaded the answer. "It says she's fixing things, making our home more suitable. Beth, I think she broke in while we were out." I closed my eyes, willing myself to stay calm. "Jacob, I need you to listen to me. Your mother is here right now. She's been interfering with the wedding plans, changing our guest list without permission. And now this? We need to talk about boundaries." There was a long pause. "You're right," he said finally. "I'll meet you at the shop. We'll deal with this together." As I hung up, Elaine approached, her face a mask of concern. "Is everything all right, dear? Jacob's not having second thoughts, is he?" The implication made my blood boil. "No, Elaine, he's not. But we do need to have a serious conversation about boundaries." Her eyes narrowed. "Boundaries? But we're family now. There are no boundaries in family." As Jacob's car pulled up outside the boutique, I steeled myself for the confrontation to come. One way or another, this ended today. Our wedding, our lives, depended on it. I smoothed my dress and took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. Today was supposed to be a joyous occasion, my bridal shower. My best friends had planned everything, and I was determined to enjoy it, despite the cloud of tension that had been hanging over us since Elaine's arrival in our lives. As I entered the restaurant's private room, I was greeted by cheers and hugs from my closest friends and family. The room was beautifully decorated with soft pink and white flowers, and a table laden with gifts caught my eye. For a moment, I allowed myself to relax and bask in the love surrounding me. That moment was short-lived. My phone buzzed insistently in my purse. I ignored it at first, but when it rang for the 3rd time in 5 minutes, I excused myself to check it. My heart sank when I saw Jacob's name on the screen. "Beth?" His voice was strained. "I'm so sorry to bother you during your shower, but there's been an accident. Elaine's in the hospital." My blood ran cold. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She says she fell down the stairs at her apartment. She's asking for me and for you." I closed my eyes, torn between concern and suspicion. "Jacob, I know," he interrupted. "But she's alone, Beth. She doesn't have anyone else. Could you come, please?" I glanced back at the room full of my friends and family, all gathered to celebrate our upcoming wedding. With a heavy heart, I agreed. When I returned to explain the situation, Sarah pulled me aside. "Beth, don't you think this is a little convenient?" she whispered. "Your bridal shower just happens to be interrupted by Elaine's emergency?" I nodded, the same thought having crossed my mind. "I know, but what can I do if she's really hurt?" Sarah squeezed my hand. "Just be careful, okay? That woman gives me the creeps." An hour later, I found myself in the hospital waiting room with Jacob. A nurse approached us, looking confused. "Mr. Reeves, your mother's asking for you, but, well, there seems to be some confusion. She's not actually injured." Jacob and I exchanged glances. "What do you mean?" he asked. The nurse lowered her voice. "She came in claiming she had fallen, but there are no signs of injury, not even a bruise. When we tried to discharge her, she became agitated." My suspicions confirmed. I felt a surge of anger. Jacob, she faked this. She did this to ruin my bridal shower. Before Jacob could respond, we heard Elaine's voice echoing down the hallway. Jacob, my boy, where are you? I need you. We followed the sound to find Elaine sitting up in a hospital bed, looking perfectly healthy. When she saw us, her face lit up, but then fell when she noticed me. Oh, Beth, she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. You didn't have to come. I know how important your little party was. I bit back a retort, but Jacob spoke up. Mom, what's going on? The nurses say you're not hurt. Elaine's eyes widened innocently. Not hurt? But I fell. I could have died, Jacob, and all Beth cares about is her party. That was the last straw. Enough, I shouted, surprising even myself. Elaine, this has to stop. You didn't fall. You made this all up to sabotage my bridal shower and manipulate Jacob. I'm done playing nice. Elaine's face contorted with rage. How dare you? Jacob, are you going to let her speak to your mother like this? We both turned to Jacob, who looked torn. He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. No, Jacob. It's time to choose. Either you set clear boundaries with your mother right now, or... I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Or I'm calling off the wedding. The room fell silent. Jacob's eyes widened in shock, Elaine's narrowed in triumph, and I stood my ground, heart pounding. Everything hinged on Jacob's next words. I stared at my phone, willing it to ring. Jacob had been gone for 3 days on a business trip, and I was counting the hours until his return. After the hospital incident, he'd finally set some boundaries with Elaine, but I couldn't shake the feeling that our troubles were far from over. A sharp knock at the door startled me from my thoughts. I approached cautiously, peering through the peephole. My heart sank. Elaine stood on our doorstep, a sickeningly sweet smile plastered on her face. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. Elaine, what are you doing here? She brushed past me, entering without invitation. Oh, Beth, dear, I thought you might be lonely with Jacob away. I've come to keep you company and help around the house. Before I could protest, she was in our kitchen, skiing at the dishes in the sink. My, Jacob can't come home to this mess. Let's get started, shall we? For the next few hours, I found myself trapped in a bizarre domestic nightmare. Elaine critiqued every aspect of our home, from the way I folded laundry to the contents of our refrigerator. Kale chips? Quinoa? She wrinkled her nose at our health food. No wonder you're so thin, dear. Jacob needs a woman with some meat on her bones. I bit my tongue, reminding myself that engaging would only make things worse. But as the day wore on, my patience wore thin. Elaine, I said finally, as she rearranged our bookshelf for the 3rd time. I appreciate your help, but I can manage on my own. She turned, eyes flashing. Can you? Because from what I've seen, you're hardly fit to be a wife, let alone a mother. The words hit me like a slap. Excuse me? Oh, don't act surprised. Elaine's voice dripped with disdain. Your career woman lifestyle, your modern ideas about marriage, it's all wrong for Jacob. He needs a traditional family, with a wife who knows her place. I felt my anger rising, but before I could respond, Elaine's eyes landed on a framed photo of Jacob and me. In one swift motion, she knocked it off the shelf, sending it crashing to the floor. Oops, she said, not sounding sorry at all. How clumsy of me. As I knelt to pick up the shattered glass, a realization hit me. This wasn't about helping or even about criticizing me. Elaine was trying to erase me from Jacob's life, piece by piece. I stood, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Elaine, I think it's time for you to leave. She laughed, a harsh, mirthless sound. Leave? Oh, no, dear. I'm not going anywhere. This is my son's home, and I have every right to be here. No, you don't. I moved towards the door, opening it wide. Jacob and I are engaged. This is our home, not yours. Now, please leave before I call the police. Elaine's face contorted with rage. You ungrateful little... She lunged forward, her nails raking across my cheek. I stumbled back, shocked by the sudden violence. In that moment, something in me snapped. I grabbed Elaine's arm, my grip firm but not bruising. Get out, now. For a moment we stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills. Then slowly Elaine straightened up. This isn't over, she hissed. Jacob will see you for what you really are. As the door slammed behind her, I sank to the floor, my hand touching the scratch on my cheek. Tears welled up, a mix of anger, fear, and frustration. I reached for my phone with shaking hands, dialing Jacob's number. It went straight to voicemail. Jacob, I said, my voice breaking. We need to talk. As soon as you get home. I can't do this anymore. Something has to change. As I ended the call, I looked around our apartment, now bearing the scars of Elaine's visit. I knew I was at a crossroads. Either Jacob would finally see the truth about his mother, or I'd have to make the hardest decision of my life. Either way, when Jacob returned, nothing would ever be the same. I paced our living room, my nerves frayed to breaking point. Jacob's key turned in the lock, and I froze, my heart pounding. He entered, his tired smile fading as he took in my disheveled appearance and the lingering chaos from Elaine's visit. "Beth? What happened?" I burst into tears, the stress of the past few days finally overwhelming me. Jacob rushed to my side, enveloping me in his arms. Through sobs, I recounted Elaine's intrusion, her cruel words, and the physical altercation. Jacob's face darkened with each word. "I can't believe she'd go this far," he muttered, gently touching the fading scratch on my cheek. "Jacob, we can't go on like this," I said, pulling away to look him in the eye. "Your mother is tearing us apart. She's manipulative, she's cruel, and I'm afraid of what she might do next." He nodded slowly, a pained expression on his face. "You're right. I've been in denial, hoping she'd change, but this is unforgivable." Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. A sharp knock at the door made us both jump. Jacob moved to answer it, but I grabbed his arm, shaking my head frantically. "Jacob, Beth, I know you're in there." Elaine's voice, shrill and angry, carried through the door. "Open up this instant." Jacob's jaw clenched. He strode to the door, throwing it open. "That's enough, Mom. You need to leave, now." Elaine's eyes widened in faux innocence. "Leave? But darling, I've brought dinner. I thought we could all talk, clear the air after that unfortunate misunderstanding with Beth." I stepped forward, finding strength in Jacob's presence. "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Elaine. You attacked me." "Attacked?" Elaine laughed, the sound grating. "Oh, please, you're so sensitive, dear. A little constructive criticism, and you fall to pieces. Jacob, surely you see how unstable she is?" Jacob's voice was cold. "The only unstable person here is you, Mom. I've seen the truth now, and I won't let you hurt Beth or come between us anymore." Elaine's facade crumbled, her face contorting with rage. "You ungrateful child. After everything I've done for you, I gave you life. I found you again. And this is how you repay me?" "You didn't find me," Jacob said quietly. "You've been lying this whole time, haven't you?" The silence that followed was deafening. Elaine's mouth opened and closed, no sound coming out. Jacob continued, his voice gaining strength. "I called the adoption agency while I was away. They have no record of you. You're not my biological mother, are you?" Elaine's composure shattered completely. "No, you can't take him from me again." She lunged forward, her hands clawing at Jacob. I reacted instinctively, stepping between them. Elaine's nails raked across my arm, drawing blood. Jacob pulled me back, pushing Elaine away. "That's it," he growled, reaching for his phone. "I'm calling the police." Elaine's eyes darted wildly between us. "You wouldn't dare. I'll tell them you attacked me. Who do you think they'll believe? A sweet, helpless old lady, or you two?" My blood ran cold at the threat, but Jacob didn't waver. "Go ahead. We have security cameras in the hallway. They'll show exactly what happened." The fight seemed to drain out of Elaine. She sagged against the doorframe, suddenly looking every bit her age. "Please," she whispered, "don't send me away. I have no one else." For a moment, I saw a flicker of doubt in Jacob's eyes. I squeezed his hand, reminding him of everything we'd been through. Jacob took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, but you need help, professional help. We can't provide that, and we can't let you continue to hurt us." As Jacob dialed 911, I watched Elaine crumple to the floor, her sobs echoing in the hallway. Despite everything, I felt a pang of pity. But as I looked at Jacob, his face set with determination, I knew we were making the right choice. When he hung up, Jacob turned to me. "Beth, I'm so sorry for everything, but I promise you it ends today. We're going to start fresh, just the two of us." I nodded, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. As we waited for the police to arrive, I realized this was just the beginning of a new chapter in our lives. One without Elaine, but full of challenges we'd have to face together. I breathed in the crisp morning air, savoring the peace of our new neighborhood. It had been 3 months since we'd moved, leaving behind the chaos Elaine had brought into our lives. Jacob and I were finally settling into a routine, our wedding plans back on track. As I sipped my coffee on our small balcony, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Beth? The voice sent chills down my spine. Elaine, how did you get this number? I demanded, my hand shaking. Oh, darling, did you really think you could hide from me? Elaine's voice dripped with malice. I know everything, including your little indiscretion. My mind raced. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. I saw you with him, in our old apartment. How could you do this to Jacob? I felt sick. Elaine, you're not making any sense. We don't live there anymore. She laughed, a chilling sound. Lies. I have proof. Photos. Jacob will be devastated when he sees them. The call ended abruptly. I stood frozen, my coffee forgotten. What photos? What was she talking about? My phone buzzed again, a text from Jacob. Got a strange call from Mom. She's saying something about you cheating? Call me ASAP. Panic gripped me. I dialed Jacob's number, pacing frantically. Beth? Jacob's voice was strained. What's going on? Jacob, I swear I haven't done anything. Elaine's lying. She sent photos, Beth, he interrupted, of you and some guy entering our old apartment yesterday. My mind whirled. That's impossible. I haven't been there in months. Jacob, you have to believe me. There was a long pause. I want to, Beth, but these photos... Listen to me, I pleaded. Go to the apartment. Talk to the new tenants. They'll tell you I wasn't there. Another pause. Okay, I'll go now. But Beth, if you're lying... The call ended, leaving me in agonizing silence. Hours passed like years. I called our old landlord, who confirmed that a young couple, Tom and Sarah, had moved in last month. I left frantic messages for Jacob, begging him to call me back. Finally, my phone rang. Jacob. It's worse than we thought, he said, his voice tight. Elaine broke into the apartment. The new tenants, Tom and Sarah, they're terrified. Elaine's been stalking them, convinced Tom is your lover. Relief and horror warred within me. Oh, God, Jacob, is everyone okay? They're shaken up, but fine. Beth, I'm so sorry I doubted you. Elaine, she's completely lost it. She photoshopped those pictures, made it look like you and Tom. Where is she now? I asked, dreading the answer. That's the thing. She ran when she saw me. The police are looking for her. But a sharp knock at our door cut him off. My blood ran cold. Jacob, I whispered. I think she's here. Beth, listen to me. Do not open that door. I'm on my way. Call 911 right now. The knocking intensified, turning into pounding. Beth, I know you're in there. Open this door, you homewrecker. I fumbled for my phone, dialing 911 with shaking hands. Please, I begged the operator. She's trying to break in. I think she might hurt me. Police are on their way, the calm voice assured me. Stay on the line. A sickening crack echoed through the apartment. She was breaking down the door. Beth? Elaine's voice was unhinged. Come out and face what you've done. I retreated to the bedroom, barricading the door. Tears streamed down my face as I heard Elaine rampaging through our home. Please hurry, I whispered into the phone, praying that help would arrive in time. The bedroom door shuddered under Elaine's assault. I closed my eyes, wondering how our dream of a peaceful life had turned into this nightmare. As the door began to splinter, I realized with terrifying clarity that this confrontation with Elaine would determine not just my future with Jacob, but potentially my very survival. The bedroom door splintered, and Elaine burst in, her eyes wild with rage. I scrambled backwards, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. You lying little tramp, Elaine screeched, brandishing a kitchen knife. You've ruined everything. I raised my hands, trying to keep my voice steady. Elaine, please. This is all a misunderstanding. I've never cheated on Jacob. I love him. She lunged forward, the knife glinting in the dim light. I dodged, feeling the blade whistle past my ear. Liar, she screamed. I saw the photos. I saw you with him. As I frantically looked for an escape, I heard sirens in the distance. Help was coming, but would it arrive in time? Suddenly, Jacob's voice boomed through the apartment. Mom! Stop this now! Elaine froze, her head whipping towards the sound. I seized the moment, ducking past her and bolting for the door. But she was quicker than I expected. Her hand latched onto my hair, yanking me back with surprising strength. You're not going anywhere, she hissed in my ear. The front door burst open, and Jacob rushed in, followed closely by 2 police officers. The scene before them must have been shocking. Elaine holding a knife to my throat, both of us disheveled and panting. Drop the weapon, one officer commanded, his gun trained on Elaine. For a moment, everything was still. Then Elaine's grip loosened. The knife clattered to the floor, and I stumbled away, collapsing into Jacob's arms. As the officers handcuffed Elaine, she began to sob. "I was just trying to protect you, Jacob. She was going to take you away from me." Jacob's voice was firm but sad. "No, Mom. The only one trying to come between us was you, and now you've gone too far." The next few hours passed in a blur. We were taken to the police station, where we gave our statements. Tom and Sarah, the new tenants from our old apartment, were there too, looking shaken but relieved. "I'm so sorry," Tom said, his voice trembling. "We had no idea who she was or why she was stalking us. When she broke in, we thought—" I reached out and squeezed his hand. "It's not your fault. None of this is." As we waited for the paperwork to be processed, Jacob paced the small waiting room. "I can't believe it came to this," he muttered. "My own mother, or whoever she really is." I stood, wrapping my arms around him. "We'll get through this, Jacob. Together." He pulled back, his eyes serious. "Beth, after everything that's happened, would you understand if I wanted to postpone the wedding?" My heart sank, but I nodded. "Of course. We can take all the time you need." To my surprise, he shook his head. "No, that's not what I meant. I want to marry you as soon as possible. Today, if we can. Life's too short, and I don't want to waste another moment." Tears welled up in my eyes. "Are you sure?" He cupped my face in his hands. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Just then, the detective handling our case approached. "Mr. Reeves, Miss Thompson, we're ready for you to sign the formal charges against Elaine Simmons." Jacob took a deep breath. "And after that?" The detective's expression softened. "She'll be held for psychiatric evaluation. Given the circumstances, it's likely she'll be committed for treatment." I squeezed Jacob's hand, knowing how difficult this must be for him. He squared his shoulders. "Let's do this." As we followed the detective, I felt a mix of emotions. Relief that the nightmare was over, sadness for the pain Elaine had caused, and hope for the future Jacob and I would build together. But as we rounded the corner, a commotion erupted. Shouts echoed down the hallway, followed by a familiar, chilling voice. "Jacob! Don't let them take me!" We froze, watching in horror as Elaine, somehow free from her restraints, barreled towards us. In that moment, I realized our ordeal was far from over. The true climax of our struggle with Elaine was yet to come, and it would determine the course of our lives forever. Time seemed to slow as Elaine charged towards us, her eyes wild with desperation. Jacob instinctively stepped in front of me, shielding me from his deranged mother. "Mom, stop!" Jacob's voice was firm, authoritative. "This ends now." Elaine faltered, confusion flickering across her face. "But Jacob, I'm doing this for us, for our family." In that moment, I saw the pain etched on Jacob's features, the weight of this twisted situation bearing down on him. I squeezed his hand, lending him my strength. "We're not family, Elaine," Jacob said softly. "You've been living a lie, and it's time to face the truth." Officers swarmed around us, restraining Elaine once more. As they led her away, her anguished cries echoed through the station. Jacob's shoulders sagged, and I held him close, feeling his body shake with silent sobs. The next few months were a whirlwind of court proceedings, therapy sessions, and rebuilding our lives. Elaine was committed to a psychiatric facility, her delusions finally addressed by professionals. Jacob struggled with guilt and grief, mourning the mother he never truly had. Through it all, our love deepened, tempered by the fire we'd endured together. We decided to have a small, intimate wedding, surrounded only by our closest friends and family. As I walked down the aisle, Jacob's eyes shining with tears of joy, I knew that every trial had been worth it for this moment. Weeks turned into months, and slowly we found our rhythm again. We bought a cozy house in a quiet neighborhood, far from the memories of our turbulent past. Jacob threw himself into his work, while I focused on my writing, channeling our experiences into a novel that I hoped might help others facing similar struggles. It was a crisp autumn morning when I felt the first flutter in my belly. I stood in our kitchen, hand pressed against my stomach, hardly daring to believe it. When Jacob came home that evening, I greeted him with happy tears and the news he'd been longing to hear. "We're pregnant," I whispered, watching his face transform with wonder and joy. As Jacob knelt before me, pressing his ear to my still flat stomach and whispering words of love to our unborn child, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We had weathered the storm, emerged stronger, and now we were embarking on the greatest adventure of all, parenthood. The months flew by, our home filling with baby gear and the excited chatter of friends and family. We decided not to learn the baby's gender, relishing the surprise that awaited us. On a warm summer night, as the first stars appeared in the sky, our daughter made her entrance into the world. Holding her in my arms, Jacob beside me, I marveled at the perfect little person we had created. "What should we name her?" Jacob asked softly, stroking her downy head. I smiled, remembering all we had overcome to reach this moment. "How about Hope? Because that's what she represents, our hope for the future and the strength of our love." Jacob's eyes glistened as he nodded. "Hope. It's perfect." As we settled into life as a family of 3, I often reflected on the journey that had brought us here. The pain Elaine had caused seemed distant now, like a half-remembered nightmare. In its place was a deep appreciation for the peace we'd found and the boundaries we'd learned to set. One evening, as I rocked Hope to sleep, Jacob came in with a letter. "It's from the hospital," he said quietly. "Elaine, she's asking to see us." I held my breath, watching Jacob's face carefully. He smiled, a soft, sad smile. "I'm going to write back and decline. Our family, our real family, is right here." As he joined us, wrapping his arms around Hope and me, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. We had faced our demons, confronted our fears, and emerged victorious. Our love had not only survived but thrived, stronger and more resilient than ever. Looking down at our sleeping daughter, I knew that whatever challenges the future might hold, we would face them together, as a family, built on trust, respect, and unbreakable